Hey guys, welcome back to Next Level. And I am Suraj, and I have with me Mr. Madan Matthew. Needless to say, he is certified leadership coach, behavioral trainer, and learning and development expert. We're going to be talking about storytelling and how you can be a better storyteller, because storytelling is very important for us. If you want to capture the attention of anyone, it's not just the facts and the information. People like to listen to stories because stories allow a person to connect. So let us hear it from Mr. Madan on how we can become better storytellers. Mr. Madan?
Thank you, Suraj. Well, sometimes people feel that storytelling is limited to making speeches. Storytelling is only required for teachers or some big leaders or politicians. Basically, they feel storytelling is is required only for someone who is into public speaking. But I'm telling you, everybody should acquire and learn the art of storytelling. Because in the end of it all, whomever we are trying to influence or convince, we are actually selling a story to them. Now, please mind the word, I didn't say telling, but I said selling. For example, when you look at a child and when you want to convince the child to study well, what are you actually doing? You are selling a story to the child stating that if you study well, you will grow in your life, you will be an expert, you will be a professional, you will earn money, you will get better. So you are basically preparing a story and making that particular kid as the limelight or the hero or the protagonist of that story. And you're telling, hey, please do this, you will be happy. What does a salesman do when he sells a car? He's basically selling a story to the customer. He's telling, sir, if you buy this vehicle, this is going to help your family to be comfortable. You guys are going to be safe. And when we drive through those desert regions, you guys are going to be so comfortable. He is not selling a vehicle. In fact, he is selling a story. So whether it is a creative industry or whether it is a financial, economical industry, or whether it is a politician who's standing and requesting people for their votes, he is telling them a story. In fact, selling a story to all of them. So storytelling should be an art which every one of us should pick up, because whether it's adults or children, people are captivated and attracted by good stories. I am personally excited about it. So there are three things which I constantly remind myself whenever I communicate with people. The first thing is to choose our genre of storytelling. Now, when I say genre, what does it mean? Most of the stories can be personal stories, which is your own personal anecdote, an example. So that could be a genre, or it could be a story about which you read in a magazine, or an article that you read in the internet, or a quote you just saw while walking through your office. It could be anything, but you should pick up the genre. It can be your own story, it can be a borrowed story of someone else's experience, or it could be a story which you read in a book or a magazine or the internet. You have to choose which one you want to narrate, and you have to use that as a support for whatever you're talking to. Whether it's a personal conversation or professional conversation, you can select a genre which will match the occasion, right? For example, when I want to talk to my son, I narrated a story about my own life to him. When I was 18 years old, what happened to me? And what was the challenges I was facing? So when I mentioned that personal anecdote to him about what happened to me when I was 18 years old in a storytelling format, he was inspired, he was happy to listen to whatever I was trying to tell him. But if I would have simply advised him without narrating a story, it might have not been that effective. Number two, is it's important for us to build up the premises and the characters in the story. For example, the same story that I told my son, I had to build up the premises of how those days there was no internet, how those days there was no cellular phones, how those days we had very less job opportunities or employment opportunities, and what were the economic challenges we were facing. So that was the premises I was building. And I was talking about characters, like how my father was very strict with me, how my mother was very loving and kind with me, how my brother and me were friends. So I was trying to build up the character of my father, my mother, my brother, so that the story became more lively to my son. I could have simply said, when I was 18 years old, I faced this challenge and I overcame the challenge. I could say that, but it will not work if I don't say the background of how much we had technical limitations, economical, financial limitations, how much my father was strict, what happened. So that became the drama element. And he was happy to listen to that story. And the last one is to have some surprise element in the beginning of the story, even in between and in the end. Because we all know a story has a design. The design is it should have an opening, it should have a body, and it should have a conclusion or an end or the climax, as they say. So there should be some surprise element in all these three areas. For example, you could start your story with a question. For example, I asked my son, do you know those days, what was the situation like if you want to apply for a telephone for that matter? He said, no, because today you can buy a telephone in 5 minutes. But those days, I told him we have to apply in the telephone exchange. And the first telephone that I bought, I got it after applying it for 3 years. After 3 years, a telephone number was given to us, right? And he was surprised to know that. So I started my story like that. And then I told him all the technical limitations we had those days, how things were difficult. And then that was somewhat fascinating for him. And in between, I mentioned few things, how we struggled, what happened. And in the end also, I told him some elements of surprise, something new, something different, all right? Something unexpected should be there. And that will actually hold on the attention of the person. Our story should never be very predictable. Of course, it can be predictable, but it cannot be so predictable and so mundane that people are like, okay, I can even listen to him with the deaf ears because I know what he's going to say next.
So that's why you should be a good storyteller. And the 3 points on how to be a good storyteller was to firstly pick the genre. And this means to adjust to the age, adjust to the situation, because you have to relate to the person. If it's a sad situation, you want to talk about something upsetting. You don't want to all of a sudden jump into another entirely different emotion. The second point was build up the environment and the characters of your story. This is very important because it allows someone to relate to something in their own lives. For example, if I say I'd been to a school and in the school there was a classroom and I remember how the gates used to open, I'm building up a story and the person will be able to well relate to how he spent his time in school, for example. So always build up the surroundings of your story as well as the people in the story. For example, just give a name. Just a name adds a lot of weight to the story. Number 3, your story usually has an opening, a body, and a climax, but it shouldn't be so predictable. It's got to have a punchline. So if you have a couple of surprise elements here and there, then the story will always be exciting. It has to have a punchline at the end because it should make sense to the person at the end, because that's how you sell at the end. You sell hard with a punchline. And these are the 3 points that you need to remember if you want to be a good storyteller, because everybody who's famous is almost a good storyteller. And these 3 things will really help you. And that was some really good advice from Madan. right? And I will see you guys in the next video. If you liked this one, make sure to click the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. It lets us know that you like these kinds of videos, and share this video with someone if you think it will be helpful, to them. And we'll see you guys next time. This is Suraj signing out, as well as Madan. This is Next Level. See you guys in the next video. Take care.